This week on In Post, spookifying an architecture photo for Halloween. Hi everyone, my name is Scott Davenport and welcome back to In Post. This series where I walk through the post-processing choices of a photo, usually one from a corresponding in the field episode. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. Earlier this week, I shared an outing with you to Balboa Park, and I was shooting the Museum of Man. It was early morning and it was cast in this really cool blue light. And since it's almost Halloween, and I know my kids are getting ready to get out and go get candy and have all that fun, scary stuff, I thought it'd be fun to go and process this in a more, Halloween spooky type feel of, the creepy old museum, but, insert your bad Scooby-Doo reference here. So when I think of Halloween, I think of, kind of those eerier colors, purple, green, of course, orange for pumpkins. So I'm gonna go play that up and just have a little fun. So let's dive into Lightroom and do some processing there and then finish it up in the On1 suite. This is the photo right out of the camera. And so let's take a look at the few things I did here in Lightroom. Let me load in my current snapshot here, just the basic panel. And let's see, let's kind of start with white balance. So tweak on white balance, just doing a little bit of a custom job. You can see here it was as shot. It was a little bit cool, so warmed it up just a little bit. Let me turn on my cursor thing there. There we go, just warmed it up a little bit. And now let's see, let's get into tone. So I'm gonna bring in the tone here. So brought up the contrast some, not a whole lot. I'll do more of that in the suite. Reined in the highlights. So we've got a little more, particularly there was it felt like a little haloing around the building there. White and black point, see both are raised up quite high. This was very dark, and in particular I wanted to get a little bit of a hint of these beams and rafters underneath the roof, because I know later on when I add a vignette that's going to get even darker, so I don't want it to be completely void of detail. And then last in the present section, undo, bring in clarity. It certainly it adds local contrast. It makes things pop and brighten up a little bit. Bit of vibrance, and I did touch the saturation up a little bit. You can see it just does a tiny bit here in this dark area of the sky. So I'll do that. You can see it just gets a little more life to it right there. That is it in Lightroom. I'm going to do some color treatments in effects. But before effects, I'm going to stop off in layers. There's a couple of little things here that are a little distracting, flashes of light and so forth. So we'll brush those away in layers. We're going to skip right past layers. It was really uninteresting. It was a perfect eraser, click, 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 and that was it. Let's take a look at this, what turned out to be quite a long list of filters here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to start at the very bottom, and this is where we came in from Lightroom. You see just a tiny little bit of cleanup on lights there. And first is contrast. To add quite a bit of contrast to the scene. I want this to be a little grungy, be a little dingy, because we're going to try and make this a bit spooky. This is the natural setting with just a little tweak on the smalls. Next is an adjustment brush. And so what's happening here is I'm using the detail preset, so that adds a very healthy amount of detail. But you can see with the mask, it's only being applied to the building. So Control M, you can see that the red is where I've masked away all of the information. The adjustment brush gets laid down with a completely black mask, and you paint in where you want your treatment. And so it's just on the building. And then next to color, this is where we start to have some fun with color. So here you can see, again with the mask, I'll do a Control M. That's only applying to the building. It's effectively a copy of the adjustment brush mask, a paste and an inversion, and a little bit of blending at the very edges. And so I've shifted the tint up toward the pinkish blues, take the blue channel itself and really pushed it into the purple range, and then brought the brightness down and desaturated a little bit. That spooky, eerie, purple kind of tone. I don't believe I did anything in the purples itself. Let's see. No, just in the blues, because as you recall, this building was all in a blue light, and so adjusting the blues and shifting those to purple is how we're getting this effect. Next up is a photo filter, and this is where we start to bring in the oranges. So, using this warmer color here with a pretty healthy amount on the archway and a bit on the foreground. Actually, no, not on the foreground. Control M again, double check that. Yeah, removing it from the center of the scene. And so the concept here, if there were like, I don't know, a little fire or, a really big glowing pumpkin, that was casting a lot of candlelight on the inside of these arches and giving them an orange glow. Using that same mask, then I went dynamic contrast again, and I got punching up just the archways, so you can see the details getting much more in there. The building itself's not changing, and that was really playing and experimenting, primarily manipulating the smalls, bringing those up quite a bit to get all those little details and textures here. Backed off large, medium stayed flat, I believe, from the natural setting. Then for an adjustable gradient. Now at this point in the photo, I like what I have going on here, but this dead space foreground, or this area here, it's just blank, it's boring, and I don't want to have eyes spend much time there. So with the adjustable gradient, that's going to darken that foreground. And so we're using a darken preset. You just drop the bug down onto the very bottom of the photo and let that get darkened so it's not taking our eyes away from the building. More color. Let's see what he did next. So here, color again. We're going to see a little more tweak on the inside of the arches, and in this one, it was taking the reds and shifting those more toward the orange hue, and that's really just affecting the inside of the arch and everything, because that's where the oranges are in the photo. Moving on up to glow, and this brightens things up a little bit. It does take some of the edge off of the textures here, and so I fiddled around with these settings quite a bit, trying to get that right balance of a little ethereal, a little eerie, but still maintaining some of that texture, and ultimately I was pretty happy with what I ended up with these adjustments here. And last but not least, a vignette. So I mentioned earlier that these corners were going to get very dark, and there's still hints of detail in there, so they're not completely black, but it is definitely making these sides very, very dark, drawing our eyes in, making these archways look really eerie. And ultimately this was just kind of a whole bunch of fun. So at the end of it, here was, oh, the preview doesn't seem to be working. I've been having a video card glitch recently. Well, this is the final photo, and I was certainly on the blog post that I have over on my site where the before and after photo will be. You can see the side-by-side comparison of the before and after. So the tip of the week is just have fun. Sometimes it's just fun to take an image and forget about what the reality was and just let your mind play and try different things. And so I had a good time, playing around with color and, grunging up the museum a little bit and just giving it a much different, eerier feel than it was actually. It was quite a pleasant morning there, but maybe it's the time of year, maybe it was the lighting, but yeah, went with the Halloween theme and had a good time doing it. So that is it for this week in post. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, you can like the video, share it with a friend, drop me a comment, anything to let me know that you're getting some type of value out of these, and that really helps. It encourages me to come back and do another video and do another video. And if you got questions, I'd really love to hear those. Those questions make me think about my photography, so I become a better photographer. Hopefully my answers help you and you become a better photographer, and that's really the whole point of all of this, so we can all get better at our craft together. So until next time, my name's Scott Davenport, and happy shooting.